the uh-oh.
Jeez.
Should be going
Uh-oh,
live
oh.
now.
Vic's over here bobbing and weaving.
Wobbin and beavin.
Alright,
Go
well,
like
it wouldn't be a
Insane
Social Otaku podcast if there wasn't, technical issues. Alright, I'm gonna check the YouTube, you check the Twitch, just to make sure I am actually streaming.
Oh, hey, I think I see us on here.
Are you on YouTube or Twitch?
Twitch.
Okay, well, I mean, we're on Twitch, so... Oh,
Okay,
yep,
so
looks like
let's
we're
see.
live on YouTube as well.
Yeah, because I
Alrighty
see it,
then.
so-
Radical.
Alright, like,
Alright, so let's go ahead and get this started. My name is Josh once again. Welcome back to the Social Otaku. We haven't done this in quite a while, so I'll let my co-host introduce himself, and then we'll have our guest introduce herself.
Howdy, it is me, Surly Temple, or Elliot, depending on which tickles your fancy here. Yeah, it's been a while.
hi, my name is CryFan07, but you can call me Cry for short. My real name is Claude, but you can call me Claude for short if you like.
Alrighty
Cloud.
then. Well, glad you could join us today, Cloud. I know you know next to nothing about this series, and you just subscribed to me like yesterday, I think.
Yep.
So this should be interesting. So I guess we might as well just explain what this whole podcast is all about. The Social Otaku is pretty much about us helping otaku and weeaboo, and well, hopefully teaching people how to not be a weeaboo, but helping nerds and otaku be more social. And today's topic is people watching, which is something that I had to start out doing because I have severe social anxiety,
Hmm.
which you would not guess meeting me in person.
People watching is something I do every once in a while, especially when I find myself in a very awkward situation and I'm just like, what could I be doing right now? And then I people watch, and then I kind of make a spectacle about the people watching that I'm doing, and sometimes that goes over kind of well, actually, if I'm being honest.
You know, I
Yeah.
might sound really dense right now, but it's okay if I kind of get a short explanation on what people watch is.
Ooh, great.
Well, I mean, now we can explain it for the people at home.
Oh,
Ooh.
great.
People watching
Nice
is basically... people watching is basically the act of watching people and observing what they're doing. In this particular case, I do want to define it specifically for how it can be used to help you be more social. Because when you start out like I did with severe social anxiety and you have to work up to being able to even talk to people, much less talk to them coherently, people watching is a really good way to see, like, you will observe someone, and then anything else we talk about in this series, so communication styles, which we went over before, body language, just learning to notice things about people, figure out, which heuristics work properly for you, basically. I probably shouldn't use big words, but...
It's fine.
but,
Bigger the better.
But yeah, so it's basically just like you'll watch someone and you'll see them do something or talk to someone and think about what they are doing and see if you can figure it out.
Alright.
So that's a good way, one, to help yourself be more social. It's also a really good way to start. Like, I know when I was a kid, I really wanted to be like Sherlock Holmes. And that is one thing that can bring you closer to being able to instantly tell things about people, just like Holmes could.
Absolutely.
So, from the sounds of it, I don't think you've done much people watching, or maybe you just didn't know what it was called.
Well, I mean, the first time hearing it, like, before hearing the definition of, like, people watching, I always assumed that people watching would be, like, especially when it comes to meeting new people, whether it be a one person or a certain group of people. I always thought that people watching would be like, trying to get an intel of what that person is like before you meet them, or unless it's like you're within like a 5 foot distance and you don't really have a choice but to greet them. So it's just like, I wonder what this person is like. Would they like me for who I am? How should I greet them so they don't think I'm weird?
Right.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, and those are other topics that we go over. Greetings, icebreakers, stuff like that. I came into this pretty much completely unprepared because I had prepared for it when we were originally going to do this stream. And then I just was like, you know what? No more excuses. Let's just do the stream. And then I don't know what I did with anything that I prepped for it, so this is all off the cuff.
Same here, by the way.
Oh, I kind of
it's
figured. I
alright.
just kind of, mentioned you out of the
I
blue
feel like-
yesterday.
Yeah, I feel like one of the biggest problems with me is that I don't really seem to think before I do. So when I got onto this stream, it was just like, oh god, what am I doing again?
Oh
All I know
no.
is like to listen and to talk when things seems to be right.
Well, I mean, you're kind of
Gotta,
people
like-
watching in a sense. I mean, all people watching is, as opposed to just looking at people, would be adding a little bit of thought to it. And that really helps figure out what other people are doing, what you might want to do when out in public or talking to other people, or just figure out what you could say, like maybe even have a conversation in your head. I know I've done that a few times, have like 2 or 3 conversations in my head with someone who, I happened to be watching at the time.
Oh yes, I talk with myself all the time when it comes to stuff like that. Like, usually when I'm alone, and then I have just this thought lingering in the back of my mind. I start pretty much debating with myself on like if this thing makes sense, and if not, like why does it happen? Why does it exist? And it just goes on for like 5 minutes until somebody walks in, and you're just like, oh, okay.
So it seems kind of like you're maybe a little bit caught aloof, maybe.
Yeah. Just like
Huh?
I'm like so deep within my own thoughts. It's like as somebody like basically like says my name from the outside, I kind of like snap back to reality, and it's like, oh, okay, hi.
Snap
That's very
back to
interesting.
reality. Oh, there goes gravity.
I knew someone was gonna do that.
I couldn't
as soon as-
resist.
Of course,
Mom spaghetti.
of course. I mean, it's Eminem. How can you not resist?
I know,
I
right?
couldn't forgetty. You weren't ready.
Yeah. Well, welcome, welcome to my stream life. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Mhm.
Ed and Nettie.
One thing I don't think I thought of when I actually did prepare for this was that one way you could people watch is just watch streams or watch people online.
Oh, yeah.
Find things, find footage of people on YouTube or something like that, and try to figure out something about them or have a conversation in your head with someone about something. It's especially good if they're talking to other people.
I think stream is just such a new medium now. I'm not even used to streams myself, and here we are streaming. But
Yeah.
it's something very pervasive in at least the nerdy, gamey / anime lifestyle that a lot of people have gotten into. So I think it's definitely a useful material that people are taking advantage of these days.
Because like one of the things that one of the things I always have a habit of doing when it comes to watching people do certain things on YouTube is like putting myself in those people's shoes and think about like what must it feel like, basically having your life being surrounded by, making videos for YouTube, and like it's like doing live streams like this one. Like knowing many more of the bigger like gaming YouTubers, like imagine that you're just one person looking at whatever content people give you on screen, but not realizing that there's like 60,000 people watching you at the same time. Even though you seem to interact with any of them, you don't really know like how many people are there until you see them all in real life, and it's just like, wow, this many people actually come and watch my stuff for a living. It's like, okay.
Yeah, we have a grand total across YouTube and Twitch. We have a grand total of 4 viewers at the moment.
Amazing.
It's beautiful. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, this was requested by people, this podcast series, while we were going to cons, and people just aren't watching it, so screw it. I like doing it. We're gonna keep doing it.
I'm used to a lot of people watching me, like IRL. Being a musician, you can't avoid audiences. That's kind of what you play for, is for other people. So I am used to being under the eyes of many, and I find it kind of therapeutic that it's just a number on a screen rather than a person yelling, "Wow, awesome solo," or something like that.
Have you ever tried doing any people watching of audience members?
I'm usually too in the moment for that, but usually
fair.
whenever I have a big rest, I do. Yes. And then sometimes I forget because I'm caught up in that magic of seeing these people like enjoy it. And so that's something I got to work on. I got to work more on focusing on the music sometimes.
Yeah, well, maybe just do some people watching beforehand, like before anything gets started. Just like make a few quick judgments about someone, like, oh, I think they do this or that, or I wonder if talking to them would do this or that, or maybe right afterwards. Just like set up a little bit of time for yourself to watch and see what you can figure out.
Yeah, I guess I should do that next time. I got a show on Saturday, so, I got 2 shows, hopefully.
Yeah, I usually do that whenever we have our panels. I'll look at our audience and I'll see. What I found really interesting, and I didn't know what it was at the time. Remember this past con, the guy who came in somewhat later in the back? He was... I know he was shorter than me. I don't remember if he was shorter than you. But he had his arms crossed the whole time, short hair, skinny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you remember that guy. So I noticed, and he did ask a few questions. He asked some of the good questions in that panel. But I did notice that he seemed rather uncomfortable. Like, he put himself at the back of the room, which, he came in late, so that's part of it. But crossing his arms, basically giving himself a self-hug, and like eyes locking onto, locking eyes onto us at the table, and not looking at really anyone else in the panel.
Hello?
Yeah, okay.
Did I cut off?
I thought, yeah, you cut off because I was like,
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. It was.
I thought it was on my end too.
Yeah,
You're
because
still
I
on
thought
push
I was
to
the
talk.
one that was cutting out it, so I was just like, oh, maybe if I just wait long enough. But no.
I'm
like,
just
that
gonna
kinda
switch
cut
to
off
voice
again.
activity. Is this
Right.
better?
I mean,
Much.
yeah.
Oh, I mean, I wasn't going on a whole tirade. Where did I cut off?
You kinda
He
cut
was
off
in
at
the
part
back of the room.
room, crossing his arms. Something about being uncomfortable.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, kind of like I was saying earlier, gave himself a self-hug, which is, it was pretty hot because it's Texas, so he wasn't cold. Oh, Dark says there's no cutoff on YouTube. Yeah, I know, it's just on Discord because my mic is going directly into OBS, but Discord is a different matter because I was on push to talk, so it wasn't as direct. For whatever reason, it's cutting me off with push to talk. Anywho, but yeah, so I kind of noticed that he was seeming very uncomfortable, and I found out after the fact. I was talking to some of the staffers that evening, and they actually came by and said, "Oh yeah, I really wanted to go to your panel, but I had to work at Otaku Mart, which is their little." I know you haven't really gone to many, if any, conventions, Cryfan, but
Yeah, we don't go out much. I wish we could, though.
Well,
I
that's
wish
what
we
the
could.
Social Otaku's for.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway,
Oh,
so the Otaku Mart is pretty much like a little snack stand that conventions have. So he was saying, oh, well, I had to work at the Otaku Mart because the guy who was supposed to be working it, we all convinced him to go to your panel. And it turns out, like, it clicked when he started describing him. It was like, oh, I remember him. So the really uncomfortable guy had basically been peer pressured into going to this because he had a lot of social anxiety. So
I didn't know that.
You know, I'm obviously good at that kind of stuff, which is, you know, that's my bread and butter. But, you know, those are the kinds of things that you can look for when you're people watching. You can look for things that kind of stand out. You can look for things that that make you think, and ideally you also get some kind of confirmation that you're correct after the fact, and you become better at figuring out what people are like. And that, at least for me, takes a lot of the stress away from talking to people or starting a conversation or knowing how to start a conversation.
That's nice.
just the silence after a rant.
Yeah, because it's just like, because it's like, I think one of the worst feelings when it comes to like talking in a small group like this is just after somebody's done finishing their sentence and then there's just like that sheer silence. It's like, I feel like it's always up to that one person to make some kind of noise
Yeah.
to at least fill up the space. So that's like I'm the kind of person that would always do like the
Oh, I muted my mic. That's great.
Oh, well, that's...
Yeah, just like-
Yeah, don't do that.
yeah.
Oh, hey, it
Yes.
looks like we got Dark Sharingan joining us today.
Hello.
Hello, monkeys.
Oh my god.
Are you?
Oh god.
Well, this is the Social Otaku. If we didn't have something cringy and weeby, you know.
Embrace
Oh,
the
man.
the weirdness.
We're just
Don't be
living the
too
stream
weird.
right now.
I mean,
We're
to
just
be
living
honest
the
with
stream.
you, to be honest with you,
Have
I
some
feel like
fun.
being a weeb has allowed me to meet so many great people.
Oh yeah, and that's
yeah.
a really great way to meet people. Conventions, these Discord servers. I've met a lot of great people on these Discord servers. And despite what people say, it's actually that's something I should bring up, is that you know, finding online communities to join is actually a really great way of meeting people with a little bit less stress. Like, you can start conversations and try things out with people
things don't
online
work
first.
out.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can just leave.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like when you say like things don't work out, like of course, like not every community is perfect. Like no
Oh, no.
community is perfect because of course, like every time you go on something, if you like a certain anime or just like something that grabs your interest and you meet other people that have that same interest, of course, there's always going to be those few people that seem to start up an argument, maybe because they don't agree with you on something or vice versa, and it's just. But I mean,
Yeah.
get that
among
all
those
the time.
like among those group of people, even though there's like those few like bad apples in there, like the majority of it, like there are good people that are, you know, that will welcome you with open arms, and you get to like talk with these people even if you haven't met them in real life. You already feel like that you've found, you know, basically friends for life in that sense, even though that might sound a little bit over exaggerated. It's true. Like the few friends that I've had in middle school that introduced me to, you know, anime in the first place, because, you know, I never thought I would get myself into that kind of stuff. Them continuously pushing me to watch anime and finally watching it due to peer pressure was probably the best decision I've made at that time.
Rock on.
Yeah,
Sometimes
definitely.
peer pressure is good. Listen
Yeah.
to your friends.
Of course.
Listen to your classmates.
Oh, dude, you should
Yeah.
totally try it.
Yeah, because like when it comes to anime,
Ooh,
and of
cherry
course,
flavor.
because Jesus, because like this might you know, do a little steer off from what we're actually trying to talk about, but just like a quick question: what was like the first series, or like what was the first anime that you've watched that actually got you into the whole anime community as a whole?
Is this an
Well,
So
open-ended
what?
question?
So what got us into the anime community? Like, what anime got us into the community, or what anime
Yeah,
got us
just like-
into watching more anime, like specifically seeking out
kind
anime?
of like that. It's like,
Okay.
you know, like watching one anime and, you know, finding it so interesting, you want to see what else is out there, and then you just start continuing watching more anime, and then you soon like find all these different communities that love the same things that you do. So like, what is the anime that was like the open gate to like all of the other things that you could choose from?
Good
Well,
question.
Well, when I was a
wants to go
kid,
first?
not a lot of people knew what anime was, and especially because of 4Kids pulling their nonsense. Like, they Americanized so much of it that it was kind of hard to tell that it was made originally in Japan for a lot of kids. So what actually got me into looking into more anime, I believe it was one of two, because I was watching them at around the same time. They were both on the Funimation channel back when that was a thing. Was Slayers and Madlax.
Really?
Dude,
Well, I mean-
Madlax like was part of my childhood sexual awakening, and I will fully admit that.
Hmm.
Mine was Attack on Titan.
Oh, really?
Relatively new.
I got
Yep.
yeah, I got in pretty late.
Yeah, because it's like when it comes to
Wow.
me, you know, hearing this all the time, I don't really know if I could consider it even an anime because I thought that the English dub of it was the only version there was, and that
Yep.
had to be like Pokemon. But like even if it was like Pokemon, you know, over time, it's like I lost interest in that, and I never really got into the whole idea of anime. But when I actually started watching anime as it was, I would always start watching, the most popular short series anime that I heard of that time. And so the anime that got me into watching more anime was One Punch Man.
Oh, okay.
Well, my case
Yeah.
is very different from you guys.
Really.
I'm assuming all of you are from the U.S., right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I'm from the Middle East, and technically we've always had anime, always. And one of the most popular anime in the 80s, and which I was born in the late 80s, but that still gets rerun today, is called Captain Tsubasa. It's
Oh,
a
I've heard of
football,
Captain Tsubasa. Yeah.
yeah, or a soccer anime, if you will, and
Yeah.
everyone loves it so much.
Mhm.
But there were other shows at the time which were getting aired and re-aired. There's like shows like Igano Kabamaru. There was a boxing anime called Gunberi Genki.
Oh,
That one I've heard of.
yeah. I think there was a boxing anime, but I don't think it's the same one that you're talking about.
You probably
Because
saw
there's-
Hajime no Ippo.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's the
that's
one
the
I'm
one.
thinking about.
Hajime no
But when it
Ippo
comes to-
is fantastic, by the way, and I'm
Yeah.
so mad that it wasn't popular enough to have the third season dubbed, but
Because I think I think the first scene that actually got me into watching Hajime no Ippo was, it was this one scene where it seems that they were all at like some kind of like karaoke bar thing,
mhm.
and
that was funny.
yeah. Then this one guy just started, apparently was singing the same song like what 8 times already, and then like 3 other friends just started to join in, and then the one guy on the table, it's like,
Oh yeah.
this is like their 8th, this is like their 20th, or please someone help me.
But
That was
back
a really
then, if it was a soccer anime, it likely got dubbed into Arabic, like Moedo Top Striker, Whistle, Aoki Densetsu Shoot, Gunberry Kickers, and I think Dragon Ball was dubbed, but probably heavily edited.
Oof.
And
Yeah.
I moved to Australia in the mid '90s, around '94, and there was very little anime, but I did see Techno Man, if anyone remembers that, or
I've heard of
Tekkaman Blade.
Techno Man.
Just listen to the intro theme, the English intro theme. It's so cool. But anime did become a thing in Australia till Pokemon came about. So
Right.
there was very little of it. before
And then of
that.
course
But-
the infamous cursed copies of not really cursed, but the copies of Evangelion. I think
yeah.
at one point there was a
Porn
rumor
of
that some of
anime.
them had porn.
Oh,
What?
I,
Wait,
if I'm remembering that rumor correctly, but that was supposedly only in Australia.
But here's the
Well,
thing: there's another show which we all know, Transformers, which
Of
a lot of
course.
people would say, is it anime or is it not anime? And there's this
Right.
whole debate. So some people would say it's one of the first shows they watched, with me also being the case for me. So I've kind of always been into anime.
Well,
No.
it's like, yeah, because it's like, being so late when it comes to watching popular anime series, it's like, all the popular ones I try to get out of the way. And of course, I have like a short list of animes that I've watched all the way through that I love. Like the first long series anime that I completed in its entirety after just like hearing so much about it had to be Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I did watch, and I also did watch a few scenes of the first series and seeing how, how differently, because like knowing that how I heard Brotherhood actually based the story off of the manga, how the manga goes on, I was like, okay, I'll watch Brotherhood because, it follows the manga, and then maybe I'll watch some scenes from the original to see how that plays out. And that was a wild ride because
Yeah.
The original series is brilliant.
The original series
Marvel
is
absolutely.
fantastic. Once it diverges from the plot line that was being spelled out in the manga, which was being written at that time, which is why they split. Like they went with their own direction, and one of the things that I find really interesting is that the old series, it's much darker in theme overall, and it's better overall. Just like it's and. And
Except
I
for
say
maybe the
that
ending.
I say that hesitantly. And when I say better overall, I mean it's more consistent with its good quality. Whereas Brotherhood, pretty like unless you have some type of emotional attachment to Brotherhood, specifically, like it was one of your first animes, then usually you're able to tell. Yeah, the first like 5 episodes are done completely horribly. And they did it that way because they thought, well, first of all, they blew their load far before they should have, and they ruined the brilliant introduction of Ed's features by having the first episode kind of reveal everything and not in like the best way. Because I personally, like, this is just my opinion, but I personally like the reveal of Ed's metal arm when he's being attacked by the Chimera in in one of the first couple episodes.
Oh, yeah.
But
You have to remember that the second series, even though it came later, the gap isn't that wide. I mean, 2003 and 2009 is only 6 years. The original was still
Right.
fresh in people's minds.
well,
There was
no-
like a decade and a half.
well,
of
and that's the
difference,
thing
maybe
is
they would've-
because they didn't because they knew people had likely seen the first one. They sped through a ton of stuff in the first 5 to 6 episodes, and it really shows because it ruined the quality, and they had an episode that kind of threw everything off, and it really bothered me for a while. Like I couldn't get through the first few episodes of Brotherhood for a while, simply because like some of the coolest scenes were kind of victims of
Stretched out.
tone. Like they were sped through, and they went more for the comedy instead of the badassery. And here I
Yeah.
go with
Well, I mean, yeah.
I mean, I
Like,
personally
even-
think. Yeah, sorry.
but it
that's
certainly
okay, you go.
certainly ends on a really, really strong note. And I forget what the main theme of the original series was, the overall theme, but the second series, believe it or not, is legitimately based on the documentation we have about the Philosopher's Stone from real world alchemist papers. Because the
Interesting.
Philosopher's Stone was it was partly true, but it was mostly symbolism for a path that you would take.
Because of course, like you said, there are some points in the anime where things either seem to be stretched out or sped through, and so they focus like more on, try to focus more on the heartwarming or comedic parts and that try to like balance out the badassery and try to more like the gore and stuff. And but overall, even though that anime has its flaws, there are some moments where I will pretty much never forget, and I think one of my favorite episodes has to be episode 44, where the last section of that episode where Ling has his little like intermission with Greed. And I think one of my favorite lines from the English dubbed had to be I think if I remember correctly, I think his line was, "You fool! If you turned your back on something that you wanted, you don't deserve to call yourself greed." And then when greed finally breaks down at realizing as what it looks like he killed the last of what he would call his family.
But what
That
I was
moment,
greedy for was
Yeah.
friends.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
just killed the last of them. Oh no! So,
Oh
yeah.
no.
Yeah. Greed was really well done in Brotherhood. I liked his
Yeah.
character there.
Yes.
The original series, he was just a rogue, but the story had it had its own direction to go. So he
Yeah,
wasn't
Dante
so they
like
had to make sure
freaked me the heck out.
Mhm.
Like Dante was a legit character that I'm really glad they added. And her theme was amazing. Like seriously, just look up Dante's theme from go on YouTube and look up Full Metal Alchemist Dante theme. It's haunting.
Oh, speaking of theme, I have to stress this. I personally think that the original series had much better soundtrack. Not just opening and ending themes, but background music within the show, which I wish they used in Brotherhood.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you see, and because knowing the overall mood that both Brotherhood and the original series carry, I don't think I could actually bring myself to listen to some of the soundtracks because I'm afraid I might get emotional over it, even though I'm not the emotional kind of person. Like a few days ago, I was listening to Trisha's Lullaby. I think that's what they called it.
Oh
And I was
right,
like,
yeah.
Wow. It's like, and so like after listening to that, I was like, wow, I'm sad now. Shit.
Have you heard
Oh, sorry,
Brothers
damn it.
from
Dang
the
it.
original?
Hmm?
Have you heard the theme, Brothers?
I've heard
Yeah.
like sections of Vic actually singing that part.
Oh yeah, that's right. He does sing that.
Beautiful mother, soft and sweet.
But yeah, also, Requiem for the Brigadier. God, that gets my heartstrings every time. Or sorry, Requiem for the Brigadier General.
I'll be sure to try to bring myself to listen to more of its music because I heard that it's beautiful and it's heart-wrenching, and I don't really think I'm ready for that, but I'm willing to take that risk.
Okay, start.
It is.
Okay,
And the gypsy music of the movie was also good.
Oh yeah. Conquerors of Shambhala was phenomenal.
Yes.
Which is the true ending of the original run of the show, by the way.
Right,
It doesn't
okay.
end at the last episode. It ends with Conquerors of Shambhala.
Alright.
Which actually, that reminds me to get slightly back on topic. I just remembered there's an anime that I picked up relatively recently. I think they're stopping for now. I don't know when we're gonna get new episodes for it, but it's what's it called again?
Domestic girlfriend, right?
No. It's Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one.
Okay,
I've heard
so
the title, but I know nothing about it.
okay, so it is actually really cool. So there are these kind of supernatural aspects to there's a Japanese superstition that they kind of bring to life in this, and the superstition, anything supernatural and weird that's happening, all relates to flaws within the characters. And how their kind of teen angst, if you will, or their problems in growing up. Each episode, or sometimes it takes up 2 episodes, is dedicated to a different girl having one of these problems, and it's really fascinating to look into the psychological aspect of this. I think that's a really good anime to watch for people watching. There are some anime that, yes, obviously exaggerated, but it does show some interesting aspects of how people interact with each other pretty well. Monogatari does that as well.
Let's see, another anime that I've seen that was also, a popular series that I brought myself to watch, that also kind of fits in with the whole, the social anxiety and just, the overall feeling when it comes to interacting with other people had to be in the last few episodes. I'm pretty sure it was the last few episodes of the 2nd season of Mob Psycho 100.
Oh,
I still
so
have
good.
not watched that
Haven't seen
yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
It's on my
hits you in
list.
the feelings.
Plays through.
Oh my god, I just auditioned for the abridged version today for that.
Nice.
I've never seen it.
It's so good.
Yeah. Oh man, I also love. I mean, and also kind of steering off the topic real quick. The second season opening from Obstacle 100 is
Fire.
yes, 99.9 is. And with the visuals going on with that, it just gets me hype every time. It gives me goosebumps thinking about it.
Has anyone seen a show called School Rumble?
I've heard of School Rumble.
I've heard of
Yes.
it. Have not watched
I've
it.
heard of it.
It's
I think
basically
I've seen
yeah.
School Rumble. Yes, I think I've actually seen maybe a scene from it.
It's basically a whole classroom of students
Yeah.
where each person is in love with a different person, and you know all the mental stress they go to try to confess to one another. For example, character A might like character B, but character B likes another person, and it's like
Oh.
there's a whole web of crushes.
Interesting.
Wow, this. So I feel like hearing upon that synopsis of that show, it sounds like an anime that would like poke fun at the trope of like a love triangle, but instead of a triangle, it's just like a love web.
It's a
Exactly.
love lattice.
Love,
You didn't just come
Yeah.
up with that at the top of your head now, did you?
I did.
A love lattice.
Oh, who's this?
Well, so I took on the form of TB.
There is
R.I.P.
absolutely no
But-
reason to try and sound professional.
But I kind of like doing it anyway, so you may hear me from time to time lapse into this accent because I like it.
Hmm.
I like it very much.
It sounds like Armstrong's younger brother.
Respectable muscles.
Weren't we going back and forth the other day with Armstrong impressions?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I feel like it was just like a weird mix of just Armstrong and just talking about, for some reason, just talking about JoJo, even though I feel like I'm the only one here that watches it.
Bite of the dust door.
Yeah. Because I was actually gonna try to get to that as well, like knowing my favorite anime or animes that I've started watching that already existed for years now.
It really bothers me when people only watch the newest shows and they don't
Right.
give the classics a try.
Yeah, because it's like I feel like you know, certain anime that are popular but have been out for maybe a few years now. It's like, okay, let me give this certain anime a shot because like it had its prime time. And I think one of the few animes that I've seen that I thought I wouldn't like on the surface but end up liking, you know, much more than I thought I would. One is Ouran High School Host Club. And the
Mm.
second one is strangely Hitalia, just because of just how ridiculous it is. You know, like seeing how basically anime portrays other countries in the form of humans. Like how America is the kind of guy that would only eat fast food restaurants and think of himself as the hero, and everyone else would be his support when it comes to war. And then like Prussia is like the cocky, stuck-up one that always sees himself as being above everyone else. It was like, okay, sure. I mean, I think what killed me the most was the first episode when they were introducing everybody, and literally the first line that Italy speaks is pasta. Like,
Pasta!
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 because as soon as he said, because like with such a happy face, like as soon as he says like pasta, I'm just like,
You just instantly fell in love, didn't you?
yeah, I was just like,
You kind of like
Well,
passed away or something?
I may have gotten it
Go,
wrong,
Raymond.
but it looked like Japan in the first episode was America's butt kisser.
It kind of was.
I mean,
Yeah.
because it's just like China's over here, like, man, all of you guys are arguing. Want some food? No. It's like, okay, sure. It's like, y'all want some food? I'm good.
Get
I
him
mean,
some milk.
Of course. And then it's just like the whole thing of just like Italy just basically being like just just like Germany's just like butt kisser over here, just being like, it's just like the line where he says it's just like, we don't have to kiss now, do we? No, unless you want to. I'm like, huh?
I like that.
At least
scene
there's
when it's
consent.
like,
Right? It's just like, no, unless you want to. It's like,
I like
okay.
the scene where Germany is like, if you want to talk, you must raise your hand, but do not do it in a way that insults my country.
Oh,
Oh.
I didn't think of that.
Oh,
I didn't
neither did
think
I. It's
about
been so
that.
long.
No. I didn't even think about that. Jeez. Because I was too busy just looking at the sheer stupidity of everyone else. Like over here, like France, over here talking crap about England, and then I think one of the things that confused me the most was England's eyebrows, because I honestly thought he had like just like eyebrows stacked on top of each other, unless it was just like a way of saying that that people from England have bushy eyebrows.
I would have thought they would have done something with the teeth.
Hmm.
Well, but I don't think the
that's a big
Japanese.
stereotype.
Yeah, that's more of a stereotype that people in Europe or specifically America have of the British.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because remember, this is what like how the Japanese think of like every other country, like how France is like, you know, the really smooth one, always tries to like talk all like nice and crap, like tries to flirt with everyone, always has a rose in hand, or if not, has a rose somewhere on his body.
I just love
Every time
that
I think
Simpsons
about it, I think
joke.
of Charlotte from Samurai Shodown.
I love that Simpsons joke where they're at the dentist and the dentist asks Ralph, "How often do you brush your teeth?" 3 times a day, sir. Why must you turn my office into a house of lies? Let's look at the big book of British
A
smiles.
British smile.
It's like,
Big book
and
of
it's got a
British
picture,
faces.
that famous picture of Prince
Ah!
William. Who was- Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I think another reason they might have foregone that that stereotype is because the whole buck teeth thing in Japan is more of a nerd thing.
I mean, yeah, no.
Yeah.
There are like times in anime where I would see like characters that are portrayed as just like, you know, your stereotypical nerd, always there with like, you know, big round glasses, bowl haircut, maybe some buck teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Always has books in hand, if not.
It's basically just Mickey Rooney. Just
No.
Oil. I tell you.
Well,
Ouch.
See, we can get spicy. I just don't want no swearing and no explicitness in this stream.
I'm
Oh,
doing my best.
fudge!
wow,
goodness.
what a day!
Well, anyway, we do have
Honestly,
we do have quite a few people in here, so what I'll say is let's try to get back on topic.
Right. Stop.
People
Keyword is
watching.
try.
Just like, okay, so it's just like, let's try to get back on topic. But have you seen JoJo?
And then the rest of the stream just becomes one long JoJo reference.
And then we all start singing Roundabout and karaoke. Oh.
That's
Honestly,
just
and then,
you.
like, and then,
I
like,
sing
three of us-
Frank Sinatra.
Oh yeah, and then like 3 of us just start saying like.
Later
JoJo
had a
lines
kick
and
in
then
my head.
Come fly with me. Come.
Well,
fly
anyway,
with
let's.
me.
Yeah, let's try to please get back on topic.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Start singing
Orphan,
Roundabout.
do you have any history with doing any people watching? Do you ever just sit down and think about what
Stare.
people are saying or doing and stuff like that?
Sometimes. For me, it's kind of different because I'm actually legally blind. So I
True.
rely more on sound and
The same that goes with
whatnot than
sound.
other people. Yeah. But, yeah, I used to do that a lot in high school. Just at lunchtime and recess, just sit down, just look at what people are doing, what they're saying. It's interesting.
Yeah, I'd say so. Do you think
Very,
it
very.
helped you with actually talking to people?
Oh yeah, in high school, I was quite the introvert. Yeah, I was a pretty big introvert.
I
Just
think
Well,
for me.
Since this is y'all's first exposure to this stream, one thing that I say a lot, and I say every time I host this panel at conventions, is that there's one difference between introverts and extroverts. Just one. So, being an introvert does not mean you're automatically bad at talking to people.
Yeah.
Do you know why extroverts are so much better at talking to people, usually but not always?
Confidence.
Nope.
Not quite.
Crying.
Why do they have more confidence, generally speaking?
Because they either A, don't know what they're talking about, and are bullshitting their way through it, pardon my French.
Dude,
Language.
Language
Sorry.
is
this is a family-friendly podcast, apparently.
Yeah.
The
PG-13
yeah no
only allows one
wor-
F-bomb in the movie.
We could have one.
World War Weeb is gonna be M for mature. Don't worry about it.
It's just the World War Weeb. This is when we're gonna start dropping the alphabetical bombs that we know.
Oh yeah,
So-
absolutely.
Yeah, I need to talk to you about that one, Josh. I have some organizational things to talk to you about
Okay.
that. But
But anyway, yeah, no, the basic answer of why extroverts tend to be better at talking to people than introverts is because they do it more.
Mm.
They have more
Absolutely.
practice.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of practice.
So, and that's pretty much the only thing, because I'm an introvert. I still have social anxiety, believe it or not, but I also, I'm very good at communicating with people because I decided I wanted to be, and I made it happen. It took a while, but I'm good enough at it to where, we've got this podcast covering that specific topic, and we've got panels at conventions, and I even do charisma coaching for hire. So, yeah,
I'm just
all it
along
takes is
for
more
the ride
practice.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, you've got to consider the setting, because, if, let's suppose you're an introvert in school. If you say something, if you try to get out of the introvert state, and you screw up, and that could screw up with your mind, it's gonna stick with people for days. You get a reputation.
Oh
You make a
yeah,
reputation.
absolutely, and that's
Yeah.
part of why introverts become so bad at talking to people, is that will happen more often for them than for extroverts, or they're at least not as motivated to talk to people as extroverts, so they don't push through that as much as extroverts do, and so they become more apprehensive about talking to people in general, so they do it less, which means they get worse at it, which means that there's a higher likelihood of them screwing up, which means they do it less. You see where I'm going with this whole cycle? Just
Yeah.
a
And
vicious
it's just
cycle.
like- yeah.
But
I mean,
if
the
you
way
were
I-
to start talking outside of school or outside of
Mhm.
work, I mean, yeah, you screw up, the person's probably gonna forget your face within the hour. So
Right.
maybe that's something
But it's
people
like-
should keep in mind when they practice.
But that vicious cycle is also what makes some extroverts think that they're introverts, just because usually it's because they're nerds, and they feel like they blew a conversation because nobody wanted to talk about Hajime no Ippo or something like that. So that kind of thing does happen.
Mm.
Because it's like-
My way out was music, because I was really good at music.
Mm.
So I was like, I fucking excuse me, sorry for swearing. I apologize for that. But I was really good at playing drums and keyboard and all sorts of stuff. So lo and behold, there was a talent show one year, and I was like, the hell of it, I may as well just do something with the drums. And I did that, and that was my breakout. Then I realized, like, okay, so everything is good. And it was a lot easier to actually talk to people after that, because, well, as a talent show, you were
Yeah.
there in front of a whole school. It was like, oh crap, I actually did it. I did something, so now I can actually focus on smaller things because I've done the bigger thing first.
Hmm. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
For me, it was curtailing my interest in basically all my nerd stuff into the one thing that I knew would be so popular among everything else: football, in particular statistics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
that
if
is
you
one
can
way to
get
go
people
about it.
interested in football statistics and predicting games, you've won.
I mean, it
That's
really
how
is
I
all a
voice
numbers
it.
game.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, like, compared to other people when they have their own breakout story, like how I managed to get my quote unquote breakout was because of my friends basically pushing me to get into certain things that they're into, and because of that, like getting into the same things that they enjoy, I managed to meet more people that have the same interest that I do, and then of course I go on social media like Instagram, Twitter, and of course Discord. I get into these servers here where I manage to talk to like tens upon hundreds of people that have the same interests as I do. So it's just like, wow, I'm not, as alone as I thought I am anymore, because now besides the group of friends that I have at school, I have all these other people that I could just nerd out with, like on the hour. So.
I remember when Yahoo Messenger was a thing. The chat rooms were a big help as well.
Oh my god.
Back when that happened, because
Oof.
man, chat rooms for everything, like anime, music, whatever, and you can just go on there and just talk. That was
Remember
awesome.
when
It's just
Yahoo
too
was
bad they
relevant?
went away from it. Yeah.
You mean they're not now?
I mean, because
Yahoo, MSN. They're
yeah, because
done.
like one day I'm over here on Chrome and I try to open like an extra tab, but instead of bringing me to Google like usually, it brings me to Yahoo. Like what?
That usually happens when you have malware.
Thing? What is this strange thing before me? What is
Right.
Alta Vista?
Like
Yeah, because
what?
it's like, when was the last time you've told someone to search something up and it's just like, hey, can you search something up on Bing for me?
have
I sometimes
never
do
used
that
Bing.
specifically so that I don't have to use Google, because I don't like Google. I don't trust Google. I
I'll
have
plead the
issues with
fifth here.
Google.
Yeah,
I
because,
usually
like,
use
when was the last
DuckDuckGo.
time, or if you even heard anyone be like, hey, it's okay if you could search something up on Yahoo for me, or like search something up on Bing for me?
Ask Jeeves.
Well, I mean,
Jeeves.
like,
oh god.
oh my god, that was my jam. Like back when we were like first getting computers at school. You had Ask Jeeves, and then it just became Ask, and now Ask is like awful. Like Ask is completely different.
I've had my run-in with Ask, and
Oh, it used to be Ask Jeeves, and then they completely changed it. So one, we miss Jeeves, and two, it's like it used to pretty much be a search engine, but would also come up with an answer for you near the top of the search. But now it's just like people answering things.
oh yeah, so
Ask
Yeah.
Jeeves has a Facebook
Just, like-
page?
You know, for a short time.
Probably not official.
One
Yahoo
fun way
Answers
of
fine.
interacting with other fans. Does anyone remember or still use Yahoo Answers?
Oh
I
my!
literally just said Yahoo.
Oh my god!
Yahoo Answers.
I
Oh,
literally
man.
just said, like, I literally just mentioned Yahoo Answers.
Oh,
It's like
man.
when talking about Ask, like, it's just people answering questions. I was like, wait, Yahoo Answers?
I just searched on Google.
Net?
I searched Ask Jeeves on Google, and it said no search results were found. What conspiracy?
Google censoring people once again.
Rest in peace.
Ooh.
It's the government. It always is.
Okay, I searched it again, and all of a sudden it's working. I don't know what
Oh.
that was all about.
Google heard us.
Government.
Google heard us.
It's like, oh no,
It always
no.
is.
Well, I mean, we are streaming on one of their services, so
I mean, yeah.
technically they should be able to.
Okay, that's kind of ominous, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't trust them, like, at all.
We, the higher-ups of Google, will censor you if you do not have the right thought.
Well, it's not just that. It's also that they collect and sell your data. So
Yeah, they
there is
do.
that.
Mm.
And they're completely open about it,
Huge
too.
thing like Facebook.
They even have a way to sell your, like if you use Gmail, they have a way to sell your emails to private companies. Like the government, or not to private companies, to the government, actually.
Why?
Yep.
Just like they're over here, like sending you emails. It's like, hey, we're concerned about this thing. Why haven't you been searching up how to make a artificial bomb out of clocks and potatoes for like the past couple of days? It's like, just for a class, I
Well,
swear.
but also they shouldn't, like, that in and of itself is against their terms and conditions, but the way they get around that, or the way they used to get around it, I don't know if they're still doing it now that a decent amount of people know that they were doing this. But they would have it, as it's sending, they would have it ping in a completely different country to a server they have in a totally different country where the rules are completely different, and they'd collect it there
Yeah.
and then finish sending it.
Maybe they'd actually go to one of my shows for once.
Google, why haven't you gone to any of my shows in the past 7 years?
Please.
Oh Jesus, please come.
Please.
Anyway,
Like receiving
we're
an
off
email back
topic
to the- don't
again.
worry. Like, don't worry, we'll send one of our representatives to your show on Saturdays.
Thank you. My 2 shows.
Say thank you. Like
Thank you, Google
Senpai.
Senpai.
Someone. Oh god.
They
Like,
don't care about you. Simple as that.
Oh.
I don't even
Like
care
you just
about
see like
me.
among the crowd, you just see somebody with like a Google T-shirt with nice headphones with the mic coming around.
They're wearing Google Glass.
Oh my god. Oh, that was such a
Wait,
that was an enormous
wasn't that-
failure.
Did
Wasn't
I
that
go?
Wasn't
was a
were
really
Google
cool
glasses
concept.
like a thing? Wasn't
Yeah,
like, Google
they were a
Glasses,
thing for a while.
that
It was
happened?
it was a
Wasn't,
really
like,
cool
supposed to
concept, but they
happen?
screwed it up.
Yeah.
Right.
At this point, we just have to wait for Apple Glass because Apple's gonna do it now.
Oh god, I trust Apple even less than Google.
I trust them way more. I have my own issues with them, but as far as privacy goes, I definitely trust them more.
Oh yeah,
Wasn't
privacy
there,
for
like,
sure.
This thing. I mean, I'm pretty sure this was like a joke or something, but wasn't there like at one point people talking about like the Apple brand was trying to make their own like car or something?
That was a rumor that was not really based in reality.
Okay, because I was about to say like, there's no way. Like,
Well,
somebody's
both
gonna
Apple
use
and
stock
Google
photo
were
images of
running
cars.
experiments for self-driving cars, but that's all they were.
Okay,
Neither
I
of the
heard of
companies,
that, but-
yeah, neither of the companies really wanted to make it a product. They were just testing it out for the AI, and then they were going to sell the software.
Yeah,
I mean,
I find
but,
it more
like, the whole
convincing that
idea.
I
just,
find it
like,
more
the whole
convincing
idea.
that Disney will buy the penal system.
I mean,
I just like,
Disney's gonna
Fine.
put me out of business. Like all of my post-production work that I do, like Disney now, like in the Disney, what's it called, the Disney Research Lab, they've come up with so much new tech that could edit a video, that could composite a video, that could fix footage, that could do a whole bunch of stuff automatically just in the computer. And it's very concerning to me because we're getting to a point where a computer could literally make its own movie. Like, the computer could hire the actors, produce the script, film them, and edit it all on its own. Thanks to the research that Disney has done. And that's genuinely frightening in some ways.
I don't know how I
Very
feel
science
about that.
fiction-y.
I'm thinking that all of that could just be done on one software on its own. Like you could just like, I don't know, go out shopping and then come back like maybe 2 hours later. It's like, oh well, our movie's done.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be quite that fast with all it would have
I
to
mean,
do for a
yeah,
feature-length
but
film,
you know what I
but yeah, like I've been following their research lab for a few years now, and like let's see, so they've, like I said, they have tech that will edit footage for you and actually edits it well. Like it edits it like a real person was behind it, not just like cutting every 5 seconds or whatever.
Oh, I heard about that. That was crazy.
Yeah,
I
they
just read
they
a news
also
story on that.
have technology where you can take a shot of a scene that you need to take 2 shots and mesh them together, and the shots don't even have to match up anymore. It will just take the shots, figure out on its own. It'll figure out, okay, there's a person here. They both need to be in here, so the cameras are off by this amount. I'll correct it for this amount, and it stabilizes it and meshes the 2 pieces together seamlessly.
Not to
That's
mention, they can
great.
also change the time of day and everything as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's nuts.
Well, I mean, day for night isn't really that difficult. People just
I
do
mean,
it wrong.
like pixel perfect.
The real
Like-
question is, will the movies be better?
That is a
I don't
good
know
question.
about-
It depends on how the computers learn to write the scripts.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I
Well,
barely go to the movies. Barely.
Me
Once a
neither.
year, tops.
I don't go as often as I used to. That's mostly because I just can't afford to right now. But at some point I need to go more often because I've had people asking for me to start doing movie reviews again. So I might as well.
I mean, usually when it comes to any popular movies that were anticipated to come out, I always like just wait until they come out on DVD. I mean, I didn't even watch Black Panther up until like sometime last year.
I still haven't seen Black Panther.
Neither have I.
Like
Wakanda forever.
I was
Yeah, because-
I was gonna go see it in theaters, but then like it's just all the nonsense that people were flinging about. It was just so annoying. I just gave up on it, and then I just never really had the interest to pick it up and watch it.
Yeah, I mean,
Has
like the
anyone-
only reason why I managed to get around to Black Panther is because we were at a friend's house and the father had the DVD in like on the shelf. So it's like, let's just watch Black Panther. And I was like, all right.
Has anyone ever tried to tell you that you have to watch a movie because of some, I don't know, some political agenda or it has a meaning or it's deep, thought-provoking or something along any...
I mean,
I've been that guy because there are some genuinely outstanding films that or shows sometimes that are just that deep or just have that big of an impact.
well, I mean, I never
Heck-
really
heck,
met that
when-
person.
Going to say one of my favorite documentaries that I think I promoted the heck out of was OJ Made in America. That was wonderful documentary, absolutely wonderful documentary. Kind of gave you like the complete overview of the most publicized trial in the history of mankind.
Because I'm
Fi-
like,
I was going to say like
Um,
5 parts long and like 8 to 10 hours. It was a long sit.
because it's like one of the guilty pleasures for me when it comes to like, you know, watching different kinds of content. I do enjoy just watching documentaries of just, you know, crazy things that have happened in the past and like how one person or just like maybe one or two, maybe like a small group of people make such like a impact on how like people seem to view things in an everyday lifestyle. Like there was this show that I just decided to sit down and watch because it was already on, where it was like, you know, it had like small reenactments of the events that have happened, and like one of the stories I don't remember, but it was like a girl who basically, you know, managed to hide her pregnancy for like the entire time, gave birth at a prom, but then proceed to kill and hide the newborn behind the prom's like dumpster, and the body was found by people that were trying to throw away the trash. So it was
Ooh.
crazy.
Alrighty then. Jeez.
Yeah, it's like
Well,
very it's like one of those darker documentaries that just point out some of the smaller parts that have happened in this world that kind of put on an impact on people in different ways. Because like at the same time, it's like it happened and you don't really know why it would be necessary to actually, you know, make a documentary about this, but at the same time it's like it's oddly fascinating to me.
One of the things that I found fascinating, there was an experiment done with a group of ordinary people. I can't remember what it was called, but it was set up like a prison. One group of people chosen were inmates, the other were the guards.
Oh yeah, I
was
know what
the
study
manager.
you're talking about.
Yeah, there have been a couple of documentaries about that, and that subject I find fascinating. Because we almost never delve into the darker sides of humanity's like psyche,
Right.
and I think that should be I think that should be documented more because I mean everyone has the potential to become whatever they want, like through upbringing or through social factors. One can become a monster and find that as normality. I mean, it's screwed up. Our psyche, our brains are still not specifically understood.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's a
just
growing field, and
nuts.
I find it endlessly fascinating.
I remember learning about that one in college, I think. It was really spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like
Yeah.
the idea of like, you know, someone putting together just like a long documentary about, you know, some of the more scarier parts of humanity and how far a human would go to try to like discover something new, whether it might cause pain to others. It's like
Well, that
It's
reminds me of
just,
another
you know.
experiment. There was an experiment where The test subject was told that they were in control of this button that would give someone an electrical shock.
The
I know
Milgram
that.
experiment.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, the Milgram experiment, and there wasn't really anyone being shocked, but they didn't know that. They thought they were like legitimately hurting someone, and they just had someone like screaming and stuff. And like the doctors were like, "Look, we just need to complete the experiment, and to complete the experiment, you'll need to press that button again." And they were coming up with different ways of phrasing this to the participants, and found certain ways that worked best. And so they actually found ways of convincing people to do things like insanely outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But we
So
are
it's
kind of
like-
off topic again, so what I will say is I'm going to cut off the stream here, and that'll be
Alright.
this episode. We can still talk if we want to in here, or move to another server or another voice chat,
Sure.
but I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off here.
All right.
See y'all in the next one. Bye-bye.
See y'all.
Bye.
See ya.